I never thought a simple nail appointment would turn into a nightmare. This woman looked at my simple cream-colored dress and comfortable flats, then decided I didn't deserve to be there. When she slapped me, I stayed quiet. But when the owner walked in and said those 4 words, everything changed. Hey everyone, before I tell you about the most humiliating and surprising day of my life, please hit that subscribe button. What happened next will blow your mind, and I promise you'll want to stick around for the ending. You know those days when you just want to treat yourself to something nice? That's exactly what I was thinking last Tuesday morning when I decided to book a nail appointment. I had been working so hard lately, and I thought, why not pamper myself a little? I put on my favorite cream-colored dress. Nothing fancy, just a simple cotton dress that makes me feel comfortable and confident. I paired it with my go-to flats, the ones that don't hurt my feet after a long day. I chose Golden Touch Nail Parlor because I'd heard they did amazing work. It was in one of those upscale neighborhoods where everything looks perfect and expensive. Honestly, I felt a little nervous walking up to the glass doors. The place was gorgeous, all marble and gold accents with soft music playing in the background, but I reminded myself that I had every right to be there. I'd made an appointment, I could pay for their services, and I deserved to treat myself. When I walked in, the receptionist looked up from her computer and gave me a polite smile. "Hi there, do you have an appointment?" she asked. I could tell she was taking in my appearance, my simple dress, my comfortable shoes, my lack of designer accessories. "Yes," I said. "I'm Judith. I have a 10 o'clock appointment for a manicure." She checked her book and nodded. "Perfect. Amy will be right with you. You can have a seat." The waiting area was filled with plush chairs and glass tables covered in high-end magazines. I sat down and tried to relax, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. A few other customers were already there, women in expensive suits, designer handbags at their feet, jewelry that probably cost more than most people's cars. They were having quiet conversations about their vacation homes and charity events, and I felt like an outsider listening to a different language. That's when she walked in. I'll never forget the sound of her heels clicking on the marble floor, sharp, precise, demanding attention. She was probably in her early 50s, with perfectly styled blonde hair and a white designer suit that looked like it cost more than my monthly rent. Her makeup was flawless, her nails already perfect, and she carried herself like she owned the world. The moment she stepped through those doors, the entire atmosphere changed. Even the staff seemed to straighten up. She scanned the waiting area with cold blue eyes, and when her gaze landed on me, it stayed there. I felt my cheeks getting warm under her stare, but I tried to ignore it. I picked up a magazine and pretended to read, but I could feel her eyes boring into me. Finally, Amy, the young nail technician, came to get me. "Judith," she called softly. I stood up and followed her to the nail station, relieved to escape that woman's judgmental stare. Amy was sweet, probably in her early 20s, with kind eyes and a nervous smile. "What are we doing today?" she asked as I settled into the chair. "Just a simple manicure," I told her. "Nothing fancy." She nodded and started preparing her tools. I was beginning to relax when I heard those sharp heels clicking toward us. The woman in the white suit had positioned herself at the station right next to mine. She didn't even look at Amy as she sat down, just started examining her already perfect nails with a critical eye. But I could feel her watching me out of the corner of her eye. Every few seconds she'd glance over and I could practically hear her thoughts. What is she doing here? Does she even belong in a place like this? I tried to focus on Amy's gentle work on my nails, but the tension was suffocating. The woman, I later learned her name was Patricia, kept making these little huffing sounds, like she was personally offended by my presence. Finally, she couldn't contain herself anymore. "Excuse me," she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Are you sure you're in the right place, honey?" I looked up, confused. "I'm sorry. What do you mean?" She gave me a smile that never reached her eyes. "Well, it's just that this is a rather expensive salon. Some people get confused and think it's one of those budget places." She gestured vaguely at my dress. "I just want to make sure you understand what you're getting into here." My face burned with embarrassment. Amy's hands had stopped moving, and I could see her looking uncomfortable. The other customers had gone quiet, all pretending not to listen while hanging on every word. "I have an appointment," I said quietly. "I know where I am." Patricia laughed, but it wasn't a nice sound. "Oh, I'm sure you do. But appointments don't mean much if you can't actually pay for the services. This isn't the kind of place where you can just walk in off the street." She looked me up and down again, taking in my simple dress and comfortable shoes with obvious disdain. "Maybe you should try the place down the street. I think it's more your speed." I felt tears prick at my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. "I can pay for my services," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Can you?" Patricia's voice got louder, more aggressive. "Because I've seen your type before. You come into nice places like this, try to act like you belong, and then when it's time to pay, suddenly there's a problem with your credit card or you don't have enough cash." She turned to Amy. "You should ask for payment up front. This girl is probably planning to run out without paying." Amy looked mortified. "Ma'am, I'm sure that's not—" "Don't ma'am me," Patricia snapped. "I've been coming to this salon for 5 years. I know how things work here." She turned back to me, and her voice got even nastier. "You probably saw this place on social media and thought you could just waltz in here and pretend to be somebody you're not. Well, let me tell you something. We can see right through you." I felt like I was shrinking in my chair. Every eye in the salon was on me now, and I could hear whispers starting from the other customers. Some looked sympathetic, but others seemed to agree with Patricia. I wanted to disappear, to just get up and leave, but something inside me refused to give her the satisfaction. "I'm not pretending to be anyone," I said, my voice shaking slightly. "I'm just trying to get my nails done." Patricia's face twisted with anger. "Don't you dare take that tone with me. Do you know who I am? My husband owns 3 restaurants in this city. I spend more money in one day than you probably make in a month." She stood up, towering over me in my chair. "I will not sit here and be disrespected by some nobody in a cheap dress." "My dress isn't cheap," I said, immediately regretting the words. Why was I defending myself to this horrible woman? "Oh, it's not." Patricia's laugh was cruel. "What did you pay for it? $20 at some discount store? $50 if you were feeling fancy?" She reached out and actually touched the fabric of my dress without permission. "This is polyester, sweetheart. Do you see what I'm wearing? This is real silk. This is what quality looks like." I jerked away from her touch, anger finally overriding my embarrassment. "Don't touch me," I said firmly. "Don't touch you!" Patricia's voice rose to a shriek. "You don't get to tell me what to do. You're the one who doesn't belong here. You're making everyone uncomfortable with your poverty." She gestured wildly at me. "Look at you. Look at this place. You stick out like a sore thumb." Amy tried to intervene. "Please, ladies, let's just stay out of this." Patricia whirled on her. "You should have never seated her in the first place. Can't you see she's going to cause problems? She's probably here to case the joint or something." That was it. I stood up, my hands shaking with rage and humiliation. "I am not a criminal," I said, my voice stronger now. "I am a paying customer who made an appointment. I have every right to be here." Patricia's face went red. "How dare you raise your voice to me? You have no right to be here. This is a place for people with class, with money, with taste." She stepped closer, invading my personal space. "You're nothing but a wannabe, a fake, The slap came out of nowhere. I stood there, stunned, my cheek burning from the impact. The entire salon had gone dead silent. Even the soft background music seemed to have stopped. Patricia's hand was still raised, her face twisted with rage and satisfaction. I could feel tears finally spilling down my cheeks, but I wasn't crying from the pain. I was crying from the sheer cruelty of it all. "Get out!" Patricia hissed. "Get out right now before I call security." Amy looked like she was about to cry too. I don't know what to do," she whispered. I touched my cheek where she'd hit me, feeling the heat radiating from my skin. Part of me wanted to run, to escape this nightmare and never come back, but another part of me, the part that had gotten me through so many difficult times in my life, refused to be beaten down by this woman. "I'd like to speak to the owner," I said quietly. Patricia laughed triumphantly. The owner? Oh, please do call Margaret. She's a personal friend of mine. She'll throw you out faster than you can blink. She turned to the other customers who were still staring in shock. Can you believe this? She thinks she can cause a scene and then demand to speak to the owner. I'm not causing a scene, I said, my voice steady despite the tears. I'm asking to speak to the owner. Fine, Patricia shrieked. Amy, call Margaret right now. Tell her Patricia Webster needs her here immediately. Tell her there's a troublemaker who needs to be removed. Amy looked between us, clearly torn. I'll call her, she said softly. As we waited, Patricia continued her tirade. You know what your problem is? You don't know your place. You think you can just walk into any establishment and demand to be treated like you matter. Well, let me tell you something. Not everyone is equal. Some people work hard, build businesses, contribute to society. Others just take up space and cause problems. I didn't respond. I just stood there, holding my cheek, waiting for Margaret to arrive. The other customers were whispering among themselves, some looking uncomfortable, others seeming to enjoy the drama. I felt like I was on display, like an animal in a zoo. Finally, I heard rapid footsteps approaching. Margaret, the salon owner, rushed toward us, her face creased with concern. She was a woman in her 40s with graying hair and kind eyes, and she looked genuinely distressed. What's going on here? She asked, looking between Patricia and me. Patricia immediately launched into her version of events. Margaret, thank God you're here. This person came in here pretending to be a customer, but she's clearly not the type of clientele we want. She's been disruptive, rude, and when I tried to politely suggest she might be more comfortable elsewhere, she became violent. That's not true, I said quietly. She slapped me. Margaret's eyes widened as she took in my red cheek and tear-stained face. She what? I barely touched her, Patricia said quickly. She was being aggressive, and I was defending myself. Margaret, you know me. I've been coming here for years. I would never cause problems unless I was provoked. Margaret looked confused and upset. She clearly didn't know what to believe. Perhaps we should all just calm down and— Ms. Judith? The voice came from behind Margaret, and I saw recognition dawn in the owner's eyes. She spun around to face me, her expression completely changing from confusion to horror. Ms. Judith, I'm so sorry, I didn't know you were here. Margaret rushed toward me, her hands fluttering nervously. Are you hurt? What happened to your face? The salon went dead silent again. Patricia's mouth fell open as she watched Margaret's deferential behavior toward me. Margaret, she said slowly, do you know this person? Margaret turned to look at Patricia, and her expression was a mixture of anger and disbelief. This person, she said, her voice shaking, is Judith Chen. She's the billionaire who owns this entire plaza. I watched as Patricia's face went through a series of changes: confusion, disbelief, recognition, and finally, pure terror. The color drained from her cheeks, and she actually stumbled backward. That's impossible, she whispered. She's wearing a simple dress. She looks so ordinary. Margaret's protective instincts kicked in. Ms. Judith prefers to dress casually when she's checking on her properties. She owns not just this salon, but the entire shopping center. The restaurant where your husband works, she owns that too. The truth hit Patricia like a physical blow. Her perfectly composed facade crumbled, and she looked like she might faint. I didn't know. I thought— You thought what? Margaret's voice was ice cold. That you could judge someone based on their appearance? That you could assault a customer in my salon? Patricia looked around desperately, as if hoping someone would help her or tell her this was all a mistake. The other customers were staring at her with a mixture of shock and second-hand embarrassment. Amy was covering her mouth with her hands, her eyes wide with disbelief. Ms. Judith, Margaret continued, I am so sorry. If I had known you were here, I would have personally attended to you. The way you've been treated in my establishment is absolutely unacceptable. I touched my cheek again, which was still tender from the slap. "I just wanted to get my nails done," I said simply. I didn't want any special treatment. I just wanted to be treated like any other customer. Patricia finally found her voice. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. If I had known who you were..." She trailed off, realizing how that sounded. Margaret stepped forward. "Patricia, you need to leave now, and you're banned from this salon permanently. In fact, I'm going to contact all the other business owners in the plaza and recommend they ban you as well." "No, please," Patricia begged. "Margaret, we're friends. I made a mistake, but surely we can work this out. I'll pay for her services. I'll do whatever you want." "We're not friends," Margaret said firmly. "A friend wouldn't assault my customers. A friend wouldn't bring this kind of negativity into my business. You need to leave now, or I'm calling security." Patricia looked at me with desperate eyes. "Please, Ms. Judith, I know I was wrong. I'll do anything to make this right. I was having a bad day, and I took it out on you. Please don't ruin my life over one mistake." I looked at this woman who had been so cruel to me just minutes before, who had judged me and humiliated me and struck me. Part of me wanted to see her suffer consequences for her actions, but another part of me, the part that had learned empathy through my own struggles, felt something else. "I'm not going to ruin your life," I said quietly, "but I'm also not going to pretend this didn't happen. You showed me exactly who you are today. You treated someone you thought was beneath you with cruelty and violence. That says everything about your character." Patricia's tears were flowing freely now. I know I was wrong. I'm not usually like this. I'm really not." "Maybe you're not," I said, "but today you were, and that's something you need to think about." Margaret was still furious. "Patricia, you need to go. Now!" As Patricia gathered her purse and headed for the door, she turned back one more time. "I really am sorry," she said to me. I hope you can forgive me someday." I didn't respond. I just watched her leave, her designer heels clicking on the marble floor one last time. After she was gone, Margaret turned to me with tears in her eyes. "Ms. Judith, I cannot apologize enough. This should never have happened in my salon. Please, let me personally take care of your manicure. On the house, of course." I smiled sadly. "Thank you, Margaret. I appreciate that, but I think I've had enough excitement for one day." Of course. But please don't let this experience reflect poorly on my business. Most of my customers are lovely people. Patricia is, well, she's clearly an exception." "I know," I said, "and I want you to know that I don't hold you responsible for her behavior. You couldn't have known what she would do." Amy, who had been quiet this whole time, finally spoke up. "Ms. Judith, I'm so sorry I didn't do more to help you. I should have stood up to her, but I was scared of causing more problems." I looked at this young woman who had been caught in the middle of an impossible situation. "You did nothing wrong, Amy. You were professional and kind, and that's all anyone could ask for." As I prepared to leave, I couldn't help but think about what had just happened. How quickly things had changed once people knew who I really was. The same people who had watched me be humiliated suddenly wanted to show me respect and kindness. It made me sad, really. Not for myself, but for all the ordinary people who would never get that kind of treatment. Margaret walked me to the door. "Please, Ms. Judith, give us another chance. Come back when you're ready, and I promise you'll receive the treatment you deserve." "Every customer deserves to be treated with respect," I said. "Rich or poor, famous or unknown. That's what I'll be thinking about as I decide whether to come back." As I walked out into the sunshine, I felt a mixture of emotions: anger at the way I'd been treated, sadness at the cruelty I'd witnessed, and disappointment in human nature, but I also felt something else, a renewed sense of purpose. That night, I called my assistant and asked her to set up a meeting with Margaret, not to punish her, but to talk about implementing new policies and training programs for all the businesses in the plaza. Programs that would ensure every customer, regardless of their appearance or perceived status, would be treated with dignity and respect. Because the truth is, we never know who we're really talking to. The person in the simple dress might be a billionaire. The quiet customer might be going through the worst day of their life. The person who looks different from us might have a story that would break our hearts. But even more importantly, it shouldn't matter who they are. Everyone deserves to be treated with basic human decency. That's not something you should have to earn based on your bank account or your designer clothes. I never saw Patricia again after that day. I heard through Margaret that she had indeed learned her lesson, that she was attending anger management classes and volunteering at a local charity. I hope that's true. I hope she learned that a person's worth isn't determined by their appearance or their wealth. As for me, I did eventually go back to Golden Touch Nail Parlor, not because I wanted special treatment, but because I wanted to support Margaret's efforts to create a more inclusive environment. Amy still works there, and she always greets me with a genuine smile. She treats all her customers the same way, with kindness and respect. And my nails? Well, they look beautiful, but not as beautiful as the change I've seen in that little salon where everyone is now welcome, no matter what they're wearing or where they come from. You know, I shared this story not because I want sympathy, but because I want all of us to remember something important. We never know what someone else is going through. We never know their story, their struggles, or their triumphs. The person you judge today might surprise you tomorrow. I hope my story reminds you that you never know who you're talking to, but more than that, I hope it reminds you that it shouldn't matter. Every person deserves to be treated with respect and kindness, regardless of how they look or what they wear. Have you ever been judged by your appearance? Have you ever caught yourself judging someone else? Share your story in the comments below. Let's start a conversation about how we can all do better. If this story touched you, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. It means the world to me when you engage with my content. And don't forget to share this with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, true class isn't about what you wear or how much money you have. It's about how you treat others, especially those who can't do anything for you. That's the real measure of a person's worth. I'll see you in my next video. Until then, be kind to each other.